Hello and welcome to our first episode of Fire Nights Fridays on our new YouTube channel here with Neutral Zone. We're going to talk about what's hot and cold in topics in youth hockey, amateur hockey throughout the U.S. and Canada. So today with the upcoming draft this weekend, we're going to go through the NHL Draft, what's hot, which we're identifying as the WHL and the NTDP in terms of first-round talent. And then we're going to talk about what's cold, the scholastics, which would be college hockey, prep hockey, high school hockey, as well as the OHL, which is not cold overall, but cold in terms of first-round talent, top 10 talent. And what's unique to this episode and what we're really excited about is we're going to bring you scouts that are professional level scouts that are credible. They are in the areas of which they see. And what struck us is watching, whether it's on TV or podcasts or online with different scouting analysts, they were ranking players they've never seen or they saw on TV at World Juniors. These people have watched these players since they were 15 years old. They've got real perspective on these guys. They've been in the rinks. So really excited to bring you those scouts and give you some tidbits on some players in each of these regions. We're going to start with what's hot. We're going to start with Ian Moran, who played 15 years in the NHL, one of our head scouts in the U.S., a U.S.-born player, so he can relate to what those guys are going through and knows what it takes to play in the league. After him will be Donald Goudreau. We'll talk about the WHL. He's scouted these kids since they were in the Bantam WHL draft. He runs most of our WHL coverage as our head Western Canadian scout. Then we'll have Brian Murphy come and talk, who's our vice president and scouts. He'll talk about the scholastics, and he scouts Minnesota High School, New England Prep School, high school leagues all across the country, and has seen these kids inside and out. And then we'll end with Paul Hagen, who will talk about the OHL prospects. Another guy who played in the OHL, won a Memorial Cup, was also drafted in the NHL, so he knows what it takes. And they'll give their perspective on these kids and what they've been seeing out of them since they were 15 years old. And then I'll wrap it up with some tidbits on some players that they don't mention in those regions. So without further ado, here's our first Fire Nights Fridays.
Good morning. You know what's hot right now? The U.S. national team. Those kids getting ready for the draft right now, they've got to be nervous. They've got to be excited, but I'm going to talk about two of them. They got Cam York. I've been watching that kid play since he was 14. He's always been one of the best D-men on the ice. He moves the puck well. He's got great feet. He's good in transition. He's very, very smart. He's got the legs that'll translate to the next level. He's going to make some GM look awesome. I've seen him ranked as high as 10 and as low as 22. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick. I think if you get a D-man that can play 25 minutes, he's a stud, and he's going to be a top pairing guy. Second thing is Jack Hughes. Everybody talks about how awesome obviously he is. I'm just going to talk about how he skates. The only other person I've ever seen that seems to glide on top of the ice is Paul Coffey. Obviously, you guys remember Paul Coffey. He had 48 goals in the NHL, the only D-man to get 48, I believe. But anyways, the only guy who ever glides on the ice like that is Jack Hughes and Paul Coffey. Look for it. They both can fly. They both are unbelievable skaters. The national team is full of high-end talents. I think this year it's probably gonna be the record year for them. Obviously, with first-round selections, I don't think that's a lie or a BS, and everybody knows it. But there's also kids on that team that are going to have careers and pro careers that are getting overlooked right now because they're not deemed the first-round talents. And I'm going to talk about a local kid that I've known for a long time, local meaning Boston, Patrick Moynihan. Patty's a kid who is just loved hockey. All the guys would get on, they'd come in early. They'd come and they would do their thing, but Patty would stay late. He'd stay and he'd shoot pucks. Didn't matter how bad the ice was ripped up, how bad, what was going on. He just wanted more and more and more. He would do one-timers. He would do bad passes. He'd do passes off his feet. He'd pluck pucks off the wall. He would do anything and everything to make himself better. I think there's other guys that are going to be flashier, and you see that with the kids that are going to be the first-round picks and the first-round projections, which I think that some of those kids are more physically ready to play right now, and I think a lot of times that's what the first rounders are. But I think Patty's going to be a kid who will, he decommitted from Boston College to go to Providence, and I think he's going to go to Providence. He's going to do well. They've got a structured system. I think he's going to thrive in a system like that. He's a kid that's physically ready to play the college game next year. But he's somebody that I think will, if he plays, a year or 2 or 4 years at Providence, I think he comes out, and whoever drafts him, I'd imagine he's going to be a third round pick. Whoever drafts him, he's going to come out and he's going to be ready to play. He's a good hockey player, always has been. He stays on the right side of the puck. He doesn't cheat. He can play all three forward positions. You can put him on the off wing. There's not going to be any problem there. And that all goes back to his hard work that he has done. He's obviously had great coaching from the time he was a kid all the way through. But some of the things like that, playing the off wing and picking the puck off the wall and in your feet, a lot of guys don't like to do that. Where Moynihan has no issue spending the time to do that, and make himself better. He he's played with good kids all along, and there's kids, like I said, that have always been flashier. But to me, Moynihan is a kid that does it the right way. He stops on pucks. He doesn't cheat. He's good at the lines. He's good at angles, and I think that's reflected in the fact that when the kids on the national team and all the pre-draft tournaments and the pre-draft hoopla and at the combine, when they asked who was the most underrated player on the team, it was Patrick Moynihan.
Hey guys, my name is Donald. I'm a regional scout with Neutral Zone in Western Canada. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the upcoming NHL draft and the WHL prospects you'll be hearing about quite often and probably pretty early in the draft. Last year this wasn't the case for the WHL. They had a pretty slow year, and if you talk to a lot of guys around the league, they'll tell you that it was uncharacteristically bad for the WHL. But this year they're back with some pretty significant prospects that I think are going to be very good pro players. So the first guy I want to talk to you about is Dylan Cousins. He's a 6'3" power forward, but he's a tremendous skater. He plays physical. He plays well in traffic. He's got really good hands. Nice release to his shot. But I think what I like most about him is the fact that he's only 180 pounds on a 6'3" frame. So he's only going to get stronger. He's only going to get faster, more explosive. There's a lot to like about this kid, and I think he's going to be a future #1 center in the league. The second guy I want to talk to you about is Bowen Byram. He's a defenseman who played for the Vancouver Giants. A terrific defenseman. He plays well in all three zones. Great skater, really good hands, sees the ice well, can run the power play. A lot of people sometimes want to question his hockey IQ, but I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that he's got so many tools at his disposal that a lot of people think that that's hiding a lack of hockey IQ, but I don't believe it for a second. I think he's a great defenseman. I also like that he's really competitive. I've gotten to watch him since Bantam. He's got a really competitive spirit to him, and if you look at how he done in the playoffs this year with Vancouver, he led the team in scoring. And he's just a good leader. And talking to some of the guys who played with him this year, one of them just had one word to describe him, and that was special. Another guy I want to talk to you about is Kirby Dach. He's another big forward, could play center, could play the wing, and it'll be interesting to see how he transitions to the NHL. 6'4", 190 pounds. I think the knock on him a little bit is that he doesn't play that traditional power forward game. People would like to see him be a little bit more overtly physical. That doesn't mean he's a pushover, because he's not. He's an okay skater. We'll see how it transitions to the pro level. But he uses his body really well to protect the puck. He finds his way into those soft areas. He's got a high IQ, great passer, good hands. And I think he's just going to be a skilled big man, and it might be something that follows him in his career, that little kind of lack of physical play. But that's not his game. He's a playmaker. He's a savvy player. He finds himself in good scoring areas. And I think whoever drafts him are going to be pretty happy. I think he'll probably end up being a winger, but he could be a pretty diverse forward for whoever takes him. And he's looking like he's going to go maybe the top 5, definitely top 10. Another player I wanted to talk to you about, he's been in the news recently, is Peyton Krebs. Krebs is a smaller player, but he plays with lots of energy. He's got a really good skill set, excellent skater, good on his edges, really explosive, can create space for himself, high IQ, and plays a really good 200-foot game, which is not something you can always find in prospects who tend to be a little bit raw at this stage. But he's looking like a well-rounded forward already. Some people have him just outside the top 10 at 11. He might go in the top 10, but as I stated earlier, he's been in the news recently because he suffered an injury, partial Achilles tear. From what I've seen recently, it looks like the healing is going to be is on track and he's going to be great. But could be interesting to see if he falls in the draft because of that. I hope not. I think that would be a mistake. A good, complete player, really competitive. And, you know, that's 4 players who are projected possibly to go in the top 10 in the NHL draft this year, which is pretty good for the WHL. I know there's a lot of buzz around here and a lot of excitement about that, but the talent doesn't stop there. Braden Tracy, who plays for the for Moose Jaw, a really good player, good hands. He's projected to go mid-second, maybe early third round. I really like him. I like that he played on a really good line this year and was a difference maker. It's not like he was hiding in some of the shadows. He was noticeable with playing amongst really good players. And another guy I want to talk to you about, you know, he's just a player that I like. His name is Ben McCarthy. Played for the Brandon Wheat Kings. If you look at his first year, not many points, but this year he had 20 goals and I think just over 40 points, so nearly quadrupled his point total. And he also put on 30 pounds, but just an energetic player, leaves it all out on the ice. He's projected to go pretty late in the NHL draft, but I just, from getting to watch him play live, I just think there's always room for players who give it their all every shift, and he's that type of player. And it would not surprise me that if he ends up being one of those late round gems that ends up being a significant player or a player who ends up having a pretty long NHL career or even just pro career.
This week's upcoming draft. One thing that's cold for sure is college hockey. New England prep / high school all over the country. Not a lot of players near the top of most people's boards from those leagues. Jaden Strubel's a kid. However, St. Sebastian's, who I think has been the most talented player in prep hockey the last 3 years. John Farinacci, I thought, was the best player in prep hockey last year. Back to Jaden Strubel, again, immensely talented. I think has matured quite a bit. We've watched him do that on the ice, body language, leading by example. Those are things that he's improved upon a lot and that, quite frankly, were issues a few years ago. Based on the numbers he put up at the Combine, he's dedicated himself and he's taking this seriously. He's real serious athletic ability and can do pretty much whatever he wants, whenever he wants. One of the reasons that prep hockey, you know, and you had Jay O'Brien go in the first round last year, and that it may be down a little bit, and we find this sometimes, is prep hockey is so young now that it's really tough to judge, you know, someone in their draft year playing in the prep leagues. But he's somebody that, if you watch skate, handle the puck, make plays in transition, shoot it, he can do it all. He's really, really talented, and I'm not sure if he'll sneak into the first round, but if somebody took him there, I can understand why. The other player is John Farinacci. To me, this year, he had some nagging injuries, missed some time, never really found his sort of swerve, so to speak. He is a smart player. He is someone that makes everybody better, not really flashy, can score, makes smart plays with the puck, and plays well in his own end. I thought last year he was the best player in prep hockey overall. I mean, if you had a draft, I would have taken him first. Then you have the former, and it's a little unfair to criticize prep hockey, you know, when you have the likes of Zegras and Boldy, who both played so a little bit of prep hockey before they left for what is considered to be the best national team ever, and those two are going to go high. So you look at some of the guys that have left high school prep. Two players I want to just hit on quickly that I like for various reasons, and other people do too. Spencer Knight, who most people know is the top goalie in the draft. He's long, he's athletic. Everybody saw that at the combine. I saw him play a U16 game against the New Jersey Hitmen 16s, and the parents, the fathers from the opposing team, were taunting him. I mean, it was at Walpole, and they were right at his end, and they were saying things about his pads and Mr. Avon and fancy goalie and all of these things. Now he's 16, maybe 15 years old at this point. He never looked up once, Spencer. He never reacted. Didn't look fazed by it. I wanted to go over and choke the guys, but that kind of poise under sort of a little bit of duress and quite frankly a high level of inappropriateness says to me that he's someone that's going to be able to handle what comes with being a goaltender at the highest levels. The other player that's I went to the tournament, Minnesota, 2 years ago, so 2018, the year Minnetonka won. And Bobby Brink was the best player in that tournament, in my opinion, by a lot. And there were a lot of great players in that tournament. And I know some people question his skating, but what I saw and what he did as a sophomore in front of 20,000 people says to me that he's somebody that has it and can score, obviously. Had an unbelievable season in the USHL. I heard he accelerated and he'll be at Denver next year. But Bobby Brink has it. I know the skating has come up, but from what I see a kid that just makes plays. And if you want players that make plays and can help you score and are tough, going to play through contact. Again, I watched him. He had some great players around him, but he really had a lot of, follow me, boys, I'm going to help us win this. And to be 15, 16 years old in front of that many people in a hockey-crazy state, playing for a hockey-crazy city, and perform the way he did was exceptional.
Hi, I'm Paul O'Hagan, Director of Scouting for Neutral Zone, Ontario. I'm going to spend a few moments today providing you with an overview of the Ontario-based players going into the NHL entry draft this week. The Ontario crop this year is a good crop of draft picks, not the top 5, top 10 draft picks that you normally see out of Ontario, but nevertheless a number of good, solid first-round picks and capable hockey players. First on the list is Philip Tomasino, a great goal scorer. Always been impressed with Philip's ability to make plays at pace. Philip was among the top goal scorers, point getters in the age group, all through minor hockey, and has been patient in Niagara, playing behind some older forwards the last few years. In our view, he's in a position to really light up the OHL next year as the graduating class moves on and Philip becomes more prominent in a role with the Niagara Ice Dogs. Thomas Harley, Mississauga Steelheads, 11th ranked skater by North American Central Scouting. Harley, as a 17-year-old, has really evolved into the player, into the frame that he has. A very large boy at 15. And we felt he had some upside offensively and has really filled out and grown into the frame that he possesses. Offensively, in our view, one of the most improved offensive defensemen on the offensive side of the puck in the last few years. Harley wasn't the first D rated on our draft list going into the OHL draft, but he definitely is the first defenseman rated on our Ontario Basin players going into the NHL draft. The next player is Ryan Suzuki, a skilled playmaking forward with the Barrie Colts. Suzuki has lit up every league he's been in the past. As I said, a great playmaker, ability to make the players around him better. Suzuki is another player like Tomasino who is really poised to put up big numbers next year in the OHL. Suzuki currently is the 18th ranked skater with North American Central Scouting. Next on the list, Connor McMichael. McMichael in 2017, when we were evaluating him going into the OHL, our comments here were, if he continues to develop his all-around speed and foot speed and quickness, he'll be one to watch. And McMichael has done that as he's moved on to junior and playing with the London Knights in the OHL. Always a good skilled player, a big body, good frame, ability to get to the net and a nose for the net. These improvements in McMichael's foot speed allow him the opportunity to really excel at the next level. McMichael's currently the 28th ranked skater, North American skater by NHL Central Scouting. One to watch is Jamison Reese from the Sarnia Sting, currently the 30th ranked player by North American Central Scouting. Reese was in the class of Suzuki, Tomasino, not too far behind Jack Hughes, the minor midget age group, and Reese has really been hampered by injuries his first 2 years in junior. Great competitor, two-way forward, a kid who right now is under the radar, and we feel like he will be a valuable pickup for a team. 2 on the list that ranked very low with North American Central Scouting right now that we look forward to seeing on draft day. Kean Washcrook, the 149th skater out of the Mississauga Steelheads, currently ranked by NHL Central Scouting. A gritty two-way sandpaper type of player, but over the years, as we've viewed him, we've always recognized that he has the chops to handle himself in offensive situations and can put up numbers working with good players. Great find in our view, a boy who's gritty and able to excel and produce points when surrounded by the right people. And lastly is Jet Greaves from the Barrie Colts, currently the 28th ranked goaltender by NHL Central Scouting. Greaves is an intelligent, athletic goaltender who had a slow start to his junior career, but had got himself in the lineup more and more past season. Won more games in net, won more opportunities in net, then in our view is poised to be one of the top goaltenders in the province next year.
After hearing from our scouts, I just wanted to add a few players that weren't mentioned that we've seen at different phases of their careers as well. So I'll go in order of the scouts. So first was Ian with NTDP. 2 guys that could be first-round picks, probably more second and third-round picks out of the NTDP program that both similar in regards to being big prospects, versatile prospects. And I think at the NHL level, versatility is very important because you don't know what role they're going to play as they move up in their careers. But Alex Vlasic on the blue line out of Chicago Mission, and Johnny Beecher as a center out of Salisbury School. These are Vlasic, 6'6", mobile, athletic. Like I said, very versatile. Plays a multi-dimensional game. He can lead rushes. He can defend. He's got a long reach. He's got some sense. Beecher is a two-way power center. He's got some skill. He can score. Both are a bit raw, and I get that. That's probably why they might slip in the second or third rounds. But great size, frame, athleticism. Both of them can really skate and can play up and down the roster. The next area was Donald, who talked about the Western Hockey League. So I'm going to talk about a kid, Alex Newhook, out of the BCHL. Interesting kid. He's a Newfoundland kid who played minor midget in Ontario, went to St. Andrew's School, but played for York Semco, tore up the GTHL and minor midget in Ontario, but wasn't draft eligible because he was a Q draft kid. So he kind of slipped a little under the radar. I mean, he was dominant. People knew who he was, but he wasn't a featured kid because he couldn't get drafted in the OHL. So then they moved him out to BCHL, which was a clever move. And he's been excellent in that league for 2 years. This year had over 100 points, played with the Victoria Grizzlies, was one of the best players at the showcase early in the year, went back, saw him later in the year, his best player on the ice, and one of the younger players on the ice. Special player, high speed, high compete, playmaker, but can also finish. He could end up in the top 10 picks. The next person that spoke was Brian Murphy, who talked about New England Prep School, Minnesota High School, the college guys. The kid I'm going to go with here is should be a late round pick, maybe a middle round pick. Cade Weber. I like him a lot. He plays at Rivers School outside of Boston. He was invited to play on the NTDP team. He turned it down to play with Coach McGeckern, who was a former NHLer, was the head coach at Rivers. Tall, 6'5" frame, very good skater, very athletic. He's raw, and the knock on him has been his hockey sense, but I think that's unfair. He's actually got very good instincts, but he doesn't always manage the puck well, and he can run around a little bit. But from an athletic instincts point of view, especially away from the puck, he's actually a smart and plays his position well. And then last person to go was Paul Hagen, who talked about OHL draft prospects. And the kid I'll mention here is Arthur Kaliev, played with Hamilton. He had 51 goals this year in the OHL. But this kid actually played in the U.S. He played at CompuWare for minor midget and actually took his team to the national championship game, and they won at the U16 level. And he was the reason. It's a sharpshooter, big body, can play heavy and hard, but can really score and has good skills. And then two other players that we didn't cover the USHL, but I want to cover two guys, both first-year USHL players, both played U18 midget hockey last year, the previous year. Shane Pinto out of Selects Academy and Grant Silinoff out of Shattuck St. Mary's. These are the two best U18 players in the country before playing in the USHL this year. They both had excellent rookie seasons, and they're both high-compete prospects. Pinto is a more skilled player, physically more gifted, good size, plays a two-way game. He's more of a goal scorer. Silinoff is projected to be a late-round pick if he gets picked, but a high IQ player, competes really hard, can play center or wing, and more of a playmaker style, but also has a finishing touch as well. So those are the players that we didn't talk about earlier, but are key players out of all those regions. That should do it for our first episode of Fire and Ice Fridays. Thanks for watching.